When the Red Hulk rises, kingdoms burn. But this time, two kings stand in his way. One rules the land with an army of steel. The other commands the skies with storms of fire. Both hate each other, but hate the Red Hulk more. An uneasy alliance will forge the deadliest battlefield in history. Only one truth will survive. In war, there are no heroes, only kings and monsters. The desert was not silent. It breathed, hot, heavy, and angry, as if the earth itself knew what was coming. From the horizon, a crimson shimmer bled into the sky. Soldiers on the western watchtower squinted, thinking it was the sun breaking through the dust storms. But the sun didn't move like that. The sun didn't walk. The Red Hulk was coming. His footsteps were earthquakes. His breath was steam. His eyes, molten gold, locked on the fortress of King Draven, ruler of the Iron Crown. Inside the war room, Draven's generals argued over maps. He's alone, one scoffed. We have walls, cannons, and the floor shook. A goblet tipped over. And nothing that can stop that, Draven finished, his voice like a blade scraping stone. Far above the desert, in the clouds that churned like boiling seas, King Arion watched from the deck of his skyship. His armor was forged from dragon bone, his cape snapping in the wind. Arion ruled the Storm Kingdom, a realm of floating citadels and lightning-chained beasts. He hated Draven. Draven hated him. But both had seen what the Red Hulk did to the City of Glass. It wasn't a battle. It was an erasure. The Red Hulk didn't roar. He didn't need to. His silence was worse. He reached the first line of Draven's defenses, a wall of steel spikes, and walked through it. Metal screamed, bending like wet clay. Archers loosed a volley. The arrows shattered against his skin. Cannons fired. The blast staggered him for half a step. Then he was inside the walls. Draven's warlord, a giant named Kor, charged with a hammer the size of a horse. The Red Hulk caught it mid-swing. The hammer broke. Kor flew backward into a tower, which collapsed in a cloud of dust and screams. From the sky, Arion's fleet descended, lightning cannons primed. Bolts of white fire rained down, striking the Red Hulk's shoulders, chest, and back. The air smelled of ozone and burning sand. For the first time, the Red Hulk stopped. He looked up. Arion felt it. That stare, even from 100 feet above. It wasn't rage. It was recognition. Why is he here? Arion muttered to his captain. To kill Draven, the captain replied. No, Arion said, eyes narrowing. If that were all, he'd have done it already. Below, Draven's elite guard swarmed the Red Hulk, chains glowing with runes. They wrapped around his arms, legs, and neck. The ground cracked as they pulled in unison. The Red Hulk let them. For a moment. Then he flexed. The chains exploded into shards of molten metal. Arion's fleet fired again, this time with storm lances, spears of condensed lightning. One struck the Red Hulk's chest, driving him to one knee. Draven saw his chance. Open the gates, he roared. The Iron Legion poured out, shields locked, spears forward. The Red Hulk stood. He grabbed one of the storm lances still lodged in his chest, ripped it free, and hurled it into the sky. It hit Arion's second ship. The explosion lit the clouds like a second sun. Arion's jaw tightened. Bring us lower, he ordered. But sire, do it. Now. The Red Hulk turned his back on Draven's army and faced the descending skyship. The two kings locked eyes for the first time, one from the ground, one from the air. The desert wind howled between them. Draven realized something then. The Red Hulk wasn't here to destroy his kingdom. He was here to draw Arion out. And that meant only one thing. This wasn't a siege. It was a trap. The ground split open beneath the Red Hulk's feet. From the chasm, black fire erupted, swallowing soldiers whole. The Red Hulk didn't flinch. He stepped into the flames. When he emerged, his skin was darker, his eyes brighter. And in his hand was a crown. Arion's voice was a whisper. That's impossible. The Red Hulk raised the crown high. Both kings recognized it instantly. It was the crown of the first king, a relic lost for 1,000 years, said to grant dominion over all realms. And now, it was in the hands of a monster. Draven's army hesitated. Arion's fleet held fire. The Red Hulk smiled. The desert was not silent anymore. It was screaming. The Red Hulk stood in the heart of the battlefield, the crown of the first king glinting in his hand like a shard of the sun. The desert wind whipped around him, carrying the scent of scorched steel and blood. Above, Arian's flagship hovered lower, its shadow stretching over the Iron Crown's fortress. Below, Draven's army formed a trembling half-circle, unsure whether to advance or retreat. The Red Hulk broke the silence, not with words, but with a single, deliberate motion. He placed the crown on his head. The sky changed. Clouds blackened, lightning forked in unnatural patterns, and the ground itself seemed to pulse. Every soldier, Iron Legion or Storm Guard, felt it in their bones. The air was heavier, the light dimmer, as if the world had just taken a breath and was holding it. Arian's captain gripped the rail. "Sire, the relic's power, I know." Arian cut in, his voice tight. "And if he keeps it, neither of us will have a kingdom left to rule." Draven stepped forward, sword drawn. "You," he shouted at Arian's ship. "Bring him down from above. I'll strike from the ground." Arian's laugh was bitter. "An alliance? Between us?" Draven's eyes never left the Red Hulk. "Call it survival." The Red Hulk moved. One moment he was standing still. The next he was a blur of crimson muscle and black fire, slamming into Draven's front line. Shields splintered, men flew like ragdolls. From the sky, Arian's fleet unleashed a storm barrage. Bolts of lightning so bright they burned afterimages into the eyes of every witness. The Red Hulk caught one in his bare hand. The lightning didn't kill him. It charged him. He roared, the first sound he'd made, and the shock wave flattened the nearest 20 soldiers. The crown's jewels flared, and from the sand rose jagged obsidian spires, slicing through armor and flesh alike. Draven cursed under his breath. "He's reshaping the battlefield." Arian's voice crackled through a speaking horn. "Then we changed the rules. From the clouds, Arian's war beasts descended, winged leviathans with eyes like molten gold. Their screeches split the air as they dove at the Red Hulk, talons extended. The Red Hulk didn't dodge. He caught the first beast mid-dive, swung it like a club into the second, and sent both crashing into Draven's siege towers. Draven charged, his blade glowing with runes of the Iron Crown. The Red Hulk met him head-on. Steel met flesh, and flesh won. The sword shattered on the Red Hulk's forearm. Draven staggered back, blood on his lip. Arian swooped low, leaping from his ship with a spear of pure lightning in hand. The Red Hulk turned, too slow this time, and the spear drove into his side. The ground erupted in a blinding flash. When the light faded, the Red Hulk was on one knee, smoke rising from a wound. Draven saw his chance. He lunged, but the Red Hulk's hand shot up, catching him by the throat. Arian struck again, but the Red Hulk twisted, using Draven as a shield. The lightning meant for the monster tore through the Iron King's armor instead. Draven collapsed, gasping. Arian froze. The Red Hulk smiled, a slow, deliberate curl of the lips, and whispered something neither king could hear. Then he slammed his fists into the ground. The desert floor split wide, revealing a chasm glowing with molten light. From it rose figures, armored in black, eyes burning like coals. An army, not of men, not of beasts, something older. Arian's captain screamed from the ship, "We have to retreat." Draven's surviving soldiers began to fall back toward the fortress. The Red Hulk stood between them and safety, the crown blazing brighter with every heartbeat. The two kings locked eyes, and in that instant they understood, if they didn't kill him now, they never would. Arian extended a hand to Draven. Draven hesitated, then took it. The alliance was sealed in blood and desperation. They charged together, lightning and steel, sky and earth. Two kings against one monster. The Red Hulk roared, and the black-armored army surged forward to meet them. The desert screamed, the sky bled, and the war for the crown of the first king began. The desert was still burning when the two kings stood back to back. Draven's armor was cracked, his sword gone. Arian's lightning spear was dim, its power drained from the last strike. Around them, the black-armored army of the Red Hulk closed in, their movements unervingly precise, like puppets pulled by invisible strings. Above, the skyship fleets circled, but none dared fire. The risk of hitting their own rulers was too great. The Red Hulk didn't rush. He walked toward them, each step deliberate, the crown of the first king glowing brighter with every heartbeat. The ground trembled in rhythm with his pace, as if the earth itself was sinking to his will. "You feel it, don't you?" Arian muttered to Draven without looking at him. Draven's jaw tightened. The crown's power, it's binding the land to him. "Not just the land," Arian said grimly. "It's binding us." The Red Hulk raised one massive hand. The black-armored soldiers froze mid-stride. Then, in perfect unison, they slammed their weapons into the ground. The desert cracked open in a perfect circle around the three of them. Sand fell away into darkness, revealing a pit so deep the bottom was lost to shadow. From that abyss came a sound. Not a roar, not a scream, but a low, resonant hum that made the air vibrate in their lungs. Arian's eyes widened. "That's not an army, it's a gate." Draven's grip tightened on his broken sword hilt. "A gate to what?" The Red Hulk answered without words. He stepped to the edge of the pit and slammed the crown into the ground. The hum became a thunderous chant, voices rising from the abyss in a language older than kingdoms. The black-armored soldiers knelt, their heads bowed toward the pit. Arian lunged, lightning crackling around his gauntlets. Draven followed, swinging the jagged remains of his blade. The Red Hulk caught Arian's strike in one hand, Draven's in the other, and threw them both across the circle. They hit the sand hard, skidding to the edge of the pit. The heat rising from below was unbearable, like standing over the mouth of a volcano. From the darkness, shapes began to emerge. Not soldiers, not beasts, something worse. They were colossal, twice the height of the Red Hulk, their bodies made of molten stone and shadow, their eyes burning with the same gold fire as the crown. Each carried a weapon that looked forged from the bones of mountains. Arian scrambled to his feet. "If those things reach the surface, they won't stop," Draven finished. "Not until every kingdom is ash." The Red Hulk turned to face them, the crown now fused to his head, its metal glowing like it had been forged anew. "You cannot stop what was promised," he said, his voice deep, layered, as if 100 voices spoke through him. Arian's fleet finally broke formation, diving low. Storm lances fired, striking the molten giants as they climbed from the pit. The blast slowed them but didn't stop them. Draven's surviving soldiers rallied, charging the black-armored army. Steel clashed with shadow-forged blades, sparks flying in the chaos. Arian looked at Draven. "We can't win like this." Draven spat blood. "Then we change the game. What do you have in mind?" Draven's eyes flicked to the pit. "We take the fight down there." Before Arian could argue, Draven sprinted toward the Red Hulk, feinting left before diving straight into the abyss. Arian cursed, then followed, leaping into the darkness after him. The Red Hulk watched them fall, a slow smile spreading across his face. He stepped to the edge and jumped in after them. The descent was chaos, heat, wind, and the roar of ancient voices. Arian's lightning lit the walls of the chasm, revealing carvings of battles older than history. Draven landed hard on a ledge, Arian crashing beside him. They barely had time to breathe before the Red Hulk landed between them, the impact shaking the ledge apart. Stone crumbled, and all three plunged deeper into the abyss. They hit the bottom, a vast cavern lit by rivers of molten rock. In the center stood a throne of obsidian, its surface etched with the same runes as the crown. The molten giants were gathering here, kneeling before the throne. The Red Hulk strode toward it, ignoring the kings. Arian and Draven exchanged a look, a silent agreement. They attacked together. Arian's lightning wrapped around Draven's blade, turning it into a spear of pure energy. They struck as one, the blade piercing the Red Hulk's side, the lightning exploding outward. The cavern shook. The molten rivers surged higher. The giants roared in unison. The Red Hulk staggered, but didn't fall. Instead, he reached back, grabbed the blade still lodged in his side, and pulled both kings toward him. "You think this is my war?" he growled. "This is their war. I'm just the herald." He hurled them across the cavern, their bodies slamming into the obsidian walls. The throne began to glow, the runes pulsing faster. From the molten rivers, something massive began to rise, larger than any giant, its form still hidden in the glare. The heat was suffocating now. Arion forced himself to his feet, his vision swimming. Draven's armor was half melted, his breathing ragged. They both knew whatever was coming out of that river would make the Red Hulk look small. And then, with a sound like the world breaking, the molten surface split. A hand emerged, clawed, dripping fire. The cavern went silent, as if even the giants were holding their breath. The clawed hand gripped the edge of the molten river, steam hissing as fire met stone. Then another hand emerged, larger, heavier, and with a surge of molten spray, the creature began to rise. It was a titan, not in the poetic sense, but in the way mountains are titans, in the way storms are titans. Its head scraped the cavern ceiling, molten skin cracking to reveal veins of blinding gold light. Its eyes burned like twin suns, and when it exhaled, the air shimmered with heat. The Red Hulk turned toward it and knelt. The molten giants followed suit, their weapons lowered in reverence. Arion and Draven exchanged a glance, both kings realizing the same truth. The Red Hulk wasn't the master here. He was the servant. The Titan spoke, its voice a deep rumble that made the cavern walls shed dust. "Who summons me from the deep forge?" The Red Hulk rose, the crown blazing. "I do, First Forged. I bring you the kingdoms you were promised." The Titan's gaze shifted to the two kings. Two rulers, two thrones, two crowns to break. Arion's lightning flared instinctively, casting jagged shadows across the cavern. Draven stepped forward, battered but unbowed. "You'll find we don't break easily." The Titan's laugh was like an avalanche. "Then you will burn." The molten river surged, spilling across the cavern floor. The black-armored army advanced, forcing the kings back toward the obsidian walls. Arion's fleet above tried to fire through the chasm, but the heat warped their aim. Blasts fizzled before reaching the bottom. Draven's mind raced. "We can't kill that thing, but maybe we can bury it." Arion's eyes narrowed. "Collapse the cavern?" Draven nodded. "If we bring down the ceiling, we trap them all, Red Hulk included." They split without another word. Arion leapt onto a molten giant's back, driving lightning into its neck until it collapsed, molten blood hissing on the stone. Draven hacked his way through the black-armored soldiers, heading for the cavern's support pillars, massive stone columns etched with ancient runes. The Red Hulk saw their plan. With a roar, he charged Draven, each step cracking the stone beneath him. Arion intercepted, slamming into the Red Hulk's side with a lightning-charged tackle. The impact sent both of them skidding dangerously close to the molten river. Draven reached the first pillar and drove his broken blade into the runes. The stone screamed, a sound like metal tearing, and fractures spiderwebbed up its length. Chunks of rock began to fall from the ceiling. The Titan's head snapped toward him. "Stop him." The Red Hulk broke free of Arion's grip and lunged. Arion hurled a lightning spear, striking the Red Hulk in the chest and staggering him for a heartbeat, just long enough for Draven to shatter the first pillar completely. The cavern groaned. Dust rained down. The molten rivers surged higher, as if the earth itself was panicking. The Titan roared, swinging a molten fist the size of a house toward Arion. The Storm King dove aside, the blow smashing into the cavern wall and sending a shock wave through the stone. More pillars cracked. Draven moved to the second pillar, but the Red Hulk was already there, blocking his path. The two collided in a brutal exchange, Draven's strikes fast and precise, the Red Hulk's blows like falling boulders. Each hit drove Draven back, his boots skidding on the trembling stone. Arion landed beside him, lightning dancing across his armor. Together, he said, they attacked in unison, Arion's lightning blinding the Red Hulk, Draven's blade cutting deep into his side. The Red Hulk bellowed, swinging wildly, but the kings pressed forward, forcing him back into the pillar. With a final strike, the stone split, and the second pillar collapsed. The ceiling above groaned louder now, massive cracks racing across its surface. Chunks of rock the size of wagons crashed into the molten rivers, sending up geysers of steam. The Titan roared in fury. "You would bury me? I am the first forged." It began to climb the cavern wall, molten hands digging into the stone. If it reached the surface, no kingdom would survive. The Red Hulk, bleeding molten light from his wounds, turned to the kings. "You think you've won? You've only freed him." Before they could answer, the cavern floor buckled. A shock wave threw everyone, kings, giants, soldiers, into the air. The last thing Arian saw before hitting the ground was the Titan's head breaking through the cavern ceiling, molten light flooding the chasm. The last thing Draven heard was the Red Hulk's voice, low and certain. "Next time we meet, there will be no alliance." The day the sky fell, the world above had no warning. One moment, the desert was a battlefield littered with the dead and dying. The next, the ground split open in a deafening roar, and a column of molten light erupted into the sky. From that light, the first forged Titan emerged, its molten skin steaming in the cool desert air, its eyes blazing like twin suns. The shockwave of its arrival flattened tents, shattered siege towers, and sent soldiers from both armies tumbling like leaves in a storm. The Red Hulk climbed out of the chasm behind it. The crown of the first king fused to his head, his wounds already sealing with molten light. Arian and Draven dragged themselves from the collapsing edges of the chasm, coughing through the smoke and dust. Their alliance, fragile as glass, was already straining under the weight of what they faced. Above, Arian skyships wheeled in formation, lightning cannons primed. Below, Draven's Iron Legion regrouped, shields locking into a defensive wall. The Titan took one step forward. The ground sank beneath its weight. Its voice rolled across the battlefield like thunder. "Two kings, two crowns, two kingdoms to burn." Arian's voice was sharp. "We can't fight it here. Too many lives." Draven cut him off. "If it reaches the cities, there won't be any lives left to save." The Red Hulk laughed, a deep, resonant sound that carried over the chaos. "You still think this is about your kingdoms? This is about dominion. The first forge will rule all, and I will be his hand." The Titan raised one massive arm. The sky darkened. From the clouds, molten meteors began to fall, each impact sending up geysers of fire and sand. Arian's fleet scattered, dodging the fiery bombardment. One ship wasn't fast enough. A meteor punched through its hull, sending it spiraling into the desert in a trail of smoke. Draven's soldiers raised shields, but the impacts shattered their formation. The Iron King barked orders, rallying them into smaller, faster units. Arian dove from his flagship, lightning crackling around him, and landed on the Titan's forearm. He drove his spear into molten flesh. The weapon hissed, the smell of scorched metal filling the air. The Titan barely noticed. With a flick of its arm, it hurled Arian across the battlefield. He smashed into a dune, sand exploding around him. Draven charged the Red Hulk, his reforged blade glowing with runes. Their clash was brutal, steel against molten muscle, each strike sending shockwaves through the sand. "You can't win," the Red Hulk growled, catching Draven's blade in one hand. "Maybe not," Draven grunted, "but I can make sure you lose too." He twisted, driving the blade deeper. The Red Hulk roared, molten blood splattering the sand. The Titan turned its gaze on Draven. One step, and it was towering over them both. It raised its foot, a shadow swallowing the Iron King whole. Arian reappeared in a flash of lightning, slamming into Draven and knocking him clear just as the Titan's foot came down. The impact carved a crater into the desert, molten cracks spiderwebbing outward. The kings rolled to their feet, breathing hard. Arian's voice was grim. "We can't kill it, but maybe we can drive it back into the chasm." Draven nodded. "And seal it for good this time." They moved as one. Arian leapt high, lightning spearing into the Titan's eyes, blinding it. Draven darted low, slashing at the molten tendons in its legs. The Titan staggered, molten rivers spilling from its wounds. The The Red Hulk roared and charged to intercept, but Arian's fleet, seeing their chance, unleashed a concentrated barrage. Bolts of lightning and fire rained down, forcing the Red Hulk back. Draven shouted to his siege crews, "Aim for the chasm walls. Bring them down." Massive ballistae and trebuchets turned, hurling enchanted stone and steel into the edges of the pit. The ground shook as the first sections collapsed, molten rock pouring into the abyss. The Titan bellowed, swinging wildly. One blow caught a skyship, tearing it in half. Another smashed into the Iron Legion's front line, scattering men like leaves. Arian darted in and out, striking with lightning, keeping its attention divided. Draven pressed the attack on the Red Hulk, forcing him toward the collapsing edge. The Red Hulk fought like a force of nature. Every punch a shockwave, every step a quake. But Draven's strikes were relentless, each one driving him closer to the brink. Arian landed beside him, both kings now shoulder to shoulder. "Together," Arian said. Draven nodded. For now, they struck in unison. Arian's lightning flooding Draven's blade, the combined force slamming into the Red Hulk's chest. The impact hurled him backward into the chasm. He caught the edge with one hand, molten fingers digging into the stone. The kings moved to finish him, but the Titan roared, a sound so powerful it shattered the nearest siege tower. The shockwave knocked both kings off their feet. The Red Hulk used the moment to haul himself back up, molten steam rising from his wounds. "You think you've won?" he snarled. "This is only the beginning." The Titan swung its arm, smashing into the collapsing chasm wall. The ground gave way beneath it, and with a deafening roar, the first forged fell back into the abyss, molten rivers cascading after it. The Red Hulk's eyes widened. No, he dove after it, disappearing into the molten light. The battlefield went still. The chasm sealed with a final, thunderous crash, molten rock cooling into black stone. Arian and Draven stood side by side, weapons lowered, breathing hard. Around them, the surviving soldiers of both armies stared in stunned silence. Draven broke it first. "It's over." Arian shook his head. "No, he's still alive. And so is that thing." They both looked at the sealed chasm. Neither spoke the truth aloud, that the Red Hulk now had the Titan's full attention, and perhaps its full power. Above, the skyships circled lower, crews tending to the wounded. Below, the Iron Legion began gathering their dead. The kings turned to face each other. Arian's voice was cold. "When he comes back, I won't be your ally." Draven's reply was just as sharp. "When he comes back, you might not have a kingdom left to rule." They walked away from each other without another word. The wind swept across the battlefield, carrying the scent of ash and molten stone. Far below, in the darkness of the sealed chasm, molten eyes opened. "Two sets." The Red Hulk's voice echoed in the dark. "Next time, the world will kneel." The siege of two thrones. The black stone sealing the chasm was still warm when the first tremors began. At first, the soldiers thought it was the aftershock of the collapse. But the tremors didn't fade, they grew. The ground rippled like water. The air thickened with heat. Arian stood on the deck of his flagship, eyes locked on the horizon. Draven stood on the fortress wall, his gauntlets clenched. Neither king wanted to admit it, but both knew the Red Hulk was coming back. The first sign was the sky. It didn't darken, it bled. A crimson haze spread across the clouds, turning the sun into a dull, angry ember. Then came the sound, not the roar of the Titan, not the bellow of the Red Hulk. It was a drumbeat, deep, steady, and impossibly loud, as if the heart of the world itself was pounding. The black stone cracked. Molten light spilled through the fissures. And then, with a sound like the world tearing in half, the seal exploded. The Red Hulk emerged first, but he was changed. His skin was darker, streaked with veins of molten gold. His eyes burned brighter, and the crown of the first king had fused deeper into his skull, its runes now pulsing in time with the drumbeat. Behind him, the first forged Titan rose again, but now its molten form was wrapped in chains of black fire, each link connected to the Red Hulk's arms. Arian's voice was grim. He's not the servant anymore. Draven's jaw tightened. He's the master. The Red Hulk raised his arms, and the Titan moved with him, a puppet bound to its master's will. The drumbeat grew louder. Fire! Draven roared. The Iron Legion siege engines unleashed a storm of steel and flame. Arian's fleet dove, lightning cannons blazing. The Red Hulk didn't block. He absorbed. The molten veins in his body flared brighter with every strike, the energy feeding into the chains that bound the Titan. When the barrage ended, he unleashed it all in a single, devastating wave. The blast tore through the front ranks of the Iron Legion, vaporizing men and steel alike. In the sky, two of Arian's ships were ripped apart midair, their wreckage raining down in flaming arcs. The kings regrouped at the center of the battlefield. Arian's armor was scorched, his breathing ragged. Draven's shield arm hung limp, shattered by the blast. "We can't fight him head-on," Arian said. Draven's eyes narrowed. "Then we don't. We cut the chains." They split, each king charging toward one of the Blackfire chains. The Red Hulk saw them coming and sent the Titan's molten fists crashing down. Arian dodged left, lightning sparking from his boots as he ran up the Titan's arm. Draven rolled beneath a swing, his blade glowing with runes as he hacked at the chain. The black fire screamed, a sound like 1,000 voices in agony, but the chain held. The Red Hulk yanked his arms, pulling both kings off their feet. They slammed into the ground, the impact knocking the wind from their lungs. "You think you can break what was forged in the heart of the world," he snarled. "This power is mine now, and with it, I will tear down your thrones, your armies, your names." The Titan's molten foot came down toward Draven. Arian leapt, tackling him clear. The foot struck the ground, sending a shockwave that toppled siege towers and split the earth. Draven pushed to his feet. "We need more than steel and lightning." Arian's eyes flicked to the fortress. "The Heart Forge." Draven froze. "That's a myth." "Not anymore," Arian said. "If the Red Hulk can bind the first forged, we can unbind it, but we'll need the Heart Forge to do it." The Red Hulk advanced, the Titan's shadow swallowing the battlefield. The kings fell back toward the fortress gates, shouting orders to cover their retreat. The Iron Legion formed a shield wall, buying precious seconds. Arian's fleet swooped low, blasting the ground between the Red Hulk and the retreating soldiers. Inside the fortress, the kings raced through torchlit halls, down into the oldest levels, places even Draven had never walked. The air grew hotter, the walls glowing faintly with embedded veins of crystal. At last, they reached a massive chamber. In its center stood the Heart Forge, a colossal anvil of black stone, surrounded by a ring of molten light. Arian stepped forward. "We forge a weapon here, one strike, one chance." Draven's voice was low. "And if we fail?" Arian met his gaze. "Then there won't be a part 5. They worked in silence, Arian channeling lightning into the forge, Draven shaping the molten metal with blows that shook the chamber. Slowly, a weapon took form, a spear of black steel, its tip glowing with the light of the Heart Forge. Above, the fortress shook. The Red Hulk had breached the gates. The Titan's molten hands tore through towers like paper. The kings lifted the spear together. It thrummed with power, the runes along its shaft burning brighter than the forge itself. They emerged into chaos. The Red Hulk stood in the courtyard, the Titan looming behind him. The chains pulsed with power, the drumbeat now deafening. Arian and Draven moved as one, charging through the wreckage. The Red Hulk turned, too late. The spear struck the first chain. The black fire screamed, the link shattering in a burst of molten light. The Titan staggered, its movements faltering. The Red Hulk roared, swinging a molten fist, but Draven drove the spear into the second chain. It shattered, the sound like a bell tolling across the battlefield. The Titan froze. Its eyes dimmed. The chains fell away, dissolving into ash. For the first time, the Red Hulk looked uncertain. The Titan turned its gaze on him, and it was no longer bound. "You used me," the first forged rumbled. The Red Hulk stepped back, I freed you. You enslaved me. The Titan's molten hand closed around the Red Hulk. The ground shook as it lifted him high, molten light spilling from its grip. Arian and Draven stood side by side, weapons ready. The Titan looked at them. This is not your war. Leave or burn. The kings didn't move. The Titan roared and hurled the Red Hulk into the distance. So far he vanished beyond the horizon. Then it turned and began to walk away, each step leaving a crater of molten stone. The battlefield was silent except for the hiss of cooling rock. Draven exhaled slowly. It's over. Arian shook his head. No, he's still out there. And now he's angry. They both looked toward the horizon, where a faint crimson glow was already rising. The last crown. The crimson glow on the horizon grew brighter with every heartbeat. Arian stood on the shattered wall of Draven's fortress, the wind whipping his scorched cape. Draven stood beside him, armor dented, blade chipped, but eyes sharp. They both knew the Red Hulk was coming, and this time there would be no Titan to distract him. The ground began to shake, not the steady drumbeat from before. This was faster, heavier, like the pounding of war drums in a frenzy. Then he appeared, the Red Hulk, wreathed in molten light. The crown of the first king fused so deeply into his skull it looked like it had grown there. His eyes burned with something worse than rage. Purpose. You broke my chains, he said, his voice carrying across the battlefield. You freed me from the Titan, and now I will take your crowns. Behind him, the horizon shimmered, an army of black-armored soldiers marching in perfect unison, their weapons glowing with molten runes. Arian's fleet hovered low, lightning cannons primed. Draven's Iron Legion formed a wall of shields and spears. The kings exchanged one last look. No words, just a silent agreement that this was the end. The Red Hulk moved first. One leap carried him across the killing field, landing in the center of the Iron Legion. Shield shattered. Men flew. The ground cracked beneath his feet. Arian dove from the sky. Lightning spear aimed at the Red Hulk's heart. The monster caught it mid-thrust, the lightning crawling harmlessly over his molten skin. Draven charged from the flank, blade glowing with the last of the heart-forged power. The strike landed. Molten blood hissed on the sand, but the Red Hulk didn't fall. Instead, he grabbed Draven by the throat and hurled him into a collapsing tower. Arian attacked again, faster this time, lightning flashing in rapid strikes. The Red Hulk blocked, countered, and slammed a fist into Arian's chest, sending him skidding across the battlefield. The black-armored army surged forward, clashing with the Iron Legion. Steel rang against shadow-forged blades, the air thick with smoke and screams. Draven staggered to his feet, blood on his lip. Arian landed beside him, breathing hard. "We can't kill him," Arian said. Draven's eyes narrowed. "Then we take the crown." They moved together, weaving through the chaos. Every strike aimed at the molten crown fused to the Red Hulk's head. The monster fought like a storm, each blow forcing them back, but they pressed on, cutting, striking, dodging. Arian leapt high, lightning spear spinning, and drove it into the crown. The Red Hulk roared, molten cracks spiderwebbing across the metal. Draven followed, his blade slamming into the same spot. The crown screamed, a sound like tearing worlds, and a shockwave blasted outward, knocking soldiers from their feet. The Red Hulk staggered, clutching his head. The molten veins in his body flickered dimmed. For the first time, he looked mortal. Draven didn't hesitate. He drove his blade into the crown again, shattering one of its runes. Arian's lightning poured into the break, the molten metal glowing white-hot. The Red Hulk bellowed, the sound shaking the fortress walls. The black-armored army faltered, their movements slowing. With a final, combined strike, the crown split in two. Molten light erupted from the fracture, engulfing the Red Hulk in a blinding explosion. When the light faded, he was on his knees, the crown in pieces at his feet. The molten veins in his skin were gone. His eyes, still burning, locked on the two kings. "You think this ends me?" he rasped. Draven raised his blade. "It ends now." But before he could strike, the Red Hulk slammed his fists into the ground. The earth split, swallowing him whole in a rush of molten fire. The chasm sealed instantly, leaving only scorched stone where he had stood. The battlefield was silent. The black-armored soldiers crumbled into ash. The wind carried the smell of molten rock and blood. Arion lowered his spear. Draven sheathed his broken blade. "It's over," Arion said. Draven shook his head. "No, he's not dead. He's waiting." They turned away from the chasm, their armies battered but alive. The war was won for now. But far below, in the darkness, molten eyes opened once more. And the Red Hope smiled.